Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is AT. Today I want to show you how I built this cutting board slash butcher block slash pizza serving tray made with Iroko, oak and beech. If you stay with me for a few minutes, I'll show you exactly how I built it. I used quite a few of cuts of rough lumber for this project that needed flattening. And since I don't have a jointer, I use a sled on my planer to get one face straight. To get one edge straight, I turn to my trusted table saw jig that I made specifically for that purpose. It was surprising how much wood I needed for this project, and in fact I needed to add quite a few more that you will see in this footage. So that's the oak. Now we're adding the sapele, and in the end I added quite a little bit of beech. Time to cut the strips, and you'll see there was quite a little bit of cutting. All strips prepared, it was time for gluing the panels. For the glue up, I'm splitting them into two panels. Messy as it might be, I like to clean up the glue when it's wet instead of having a lot of it to scrap when it's dry. I'm still left with some scrapping, obviously, especially in the parts behind the clamps. Despite taking as much care as possible, it's almost impossible to get these panels completely flat. So I'm dividing them in two each, so I can fit them through my planer. I'm taking light passes, just enough to get them flat on both faces. I don't want to waste any material. And there we are, 4 nice and flat panels, just in time to be cut again. A bit of tear out is unavoidable, so before I start the gluing up again, I'm cleaning all the pieces with a bit of sandpaper. This glue up was a little bit more complicated, as to avoid wastage of materials I didn't make a full square. I tried to have the shape as close as possible to the final form, which is round, so I waste as little material as possible. But obviously that complicates a little bit the way you have to set up the clamps to make sure you have even pressure all around. Out of the clamps, ready to be flattened. It is said that you shouldn't fit to the planer an end grain piece like this, and in any case, my planer is not big enough for this piece anyway, so there we go. We use our classic router and sled jig to flatten this. The plan here is that I'm gonna use a router jig to make this round, but I don't want to make any holes in my piece. So I'm gonna glue a piece of plywood on the piece, and then I'll put a screw into the plywood to use as the pivot around which I'm gonna cut the circle. I know it's very popular on YouTube to use the painter tape and CA glue trick, but I promise to you that's not the reason why I'm using it here. In fact, I strongly believe that double-sided tape is a lot better, but I couldn't find any somehow, so that's why you see me using this so-called trick. And since we have a piece of plywood in the middle, then I'm adding the same type of plywood under the router as well, so we keep the jig flat. I'm taking shallow passes, lowering the router bit just a few millimeters at a time, going around as deep as I can. And once I reach the maximum depth with the router bit, I'm gonna switch to cutting with the jigsaw Although this started as a pizza board, it obviously has other functionalities as well. So I'm adding a juice grove. A flush trim bit will help me clean the mess that the jigsaw left behind. To route in the forms of the handles, I just use some templates that I had, and again, to get them to stick in place whilst I'm routing, I use the painter and the CA glue trick. Burnout traces in the juice grove, that is the bane of my existence. So hard to clean them up. So I ordered one of these scrapers, which seeing them used by other YouTubers, I thought it's a gimmick. But you know what? It's working. It's definitely quicker than sandpaper, especially in the juice groves. Few gaps here and there, easy to sort out with a little bit of glue and sawdust. It seems like the markup of any successful YouTube video is to complain about sanding. So I'm not saying it's not annoying, but here I am. Oh my god, so much sanding. Raising up the hair with a little bit of water before final sanding, and this is the first moment I'm thinking to myself, oh yes, all the hours I put it into it were worth it. For the finish, I'm first gonna give it a coat of food safe mineral oil. And the day after, I give it a final coat of my homemade butcher's block butter made with beeswax and mineral oil. And here is the final result. Stay tuned until the end and I'm gonna show it to you in action with food on it. Well, thank you for watching, guys. Before you go, I would really appreciate a subscribe and a like. I'll see you next time.